for the likes, thanks for the comments, thanks for the observations, thanks for subscribing to my channel. Please don't get tired of listening to me. Go through this journey with me. Guys, getting down with chemotherapy was a big thing for me. Before I started chemo, I had this belief that chemo would cure the cancer in my breast. So I was looking forward to the end of chemotherapy, hoping that I would request for a PET CT scan. But there was no PET CT scan in Nigeria. I didn't know then. I was so much anticipating for that test, for that scan. I've read so much about it, that it could detect a tiny, very tiny cancer cells in the point where it is. So I was hoping that it won't see and it won't detect any cancer cells, that I would have all cleared results. So on my appointment day after the chemotherapy, the doctor was so happy. I had a complete response to chemotherapy. There was no lump left. It didn't show in the scan. So he was so happy. My oncologist was so happy. You know, he said that so many people don't have this complete response, that they have to change their drugs over and over, and it was just a drug, the drug I started with, that worked for me. So he was so happy. Then I said, since the cancer cells, since the lump is no longer there, that means there is no cancer. There's no cancer. There was no cancer. So he said, so I requested for a CT scan. That was when he told me there was no PET CT scan machine in Nigeria, and he said that I could only do a tumor marker test to satisfy my curiosity, but he made it clear that it's not 100% reliable. So I was disappointed. I felt so disappointed, because all my hope was that I was going to have a PET CT scan. I read so much about it, that it could detect cancer no matter how tiny it is, that it can show the exact point where there is cancer cell, and if there is no cancer cell, it will show it as well. So I hoped that there won't be cancer cells. But then there was no proof of that. I didn't want to work with assumptions, so I started crying. I felt so bad. So he explained. He said that for the fact that there was no lump noticeable with the scan, that it's possible there could still be cancer cells deposited in that breast, and if there is a tiny cancer cell left there, that it would multiply rapidly, and all the things I've done would be a waste. He further said that it's also possible that there are no cancer cells there, but it's just an assumption. So it's better we go with a safer option, which is to have a mastectomy. I still insisted. I asked, not really that I insisted. Let me say, I suggested he do um they do a breast conservative surgery, but then I actually want his opinion. I didn't want to you know, do anything that is out of his advice. So he said that he would advise I do a mastectomy, that it would be bad if after going through all this I still go back and start all over again. And I just remembered there was a day I was at the oncologist office. A doctor walked in and discussed about the cousin who had done chemotherapy, and it was time for mastectomy. Then some people now introduced her to one herbal home somewhere in the state, around the state. She went there, and 1 year later it came back with full force. So the person returned to the hospital and would go through chemotherapy and still do the mastectomy again. So I always remember that. So that was why that was one of the reasons I wanted to do what the doctor says. So he advised mastectomy would be the best. You know, it wasn't an easy decision for me, even though I'd made up my mind to go with their decision, but it kept ringing on my head. Uju, now you have to do this. Now you have to do a mastectomy, and you will be left with a breast. Oh, it was a tough decision, but he referred me to the surgical clinic. I got there. You know, I wanted the surgeon I met at my first visit to the oncology clinic, but I didn't remember his name. That day was an emotional day for me, so I didn't remember his name. I just allowed them to fix me with a consultant. So they fixed me with a consultant. And my first appointment, I met a resident doctor. Immediately he called my name. I cried. I cried into his office. At first, he was confused. What's going on? How could this young lady cry into my office? So he flipped through my file and said to me, Uju, you've gone through 6 courses of chemotherapy. I said, yes. I just nodded my head, yes. He said, so why are you crying? You've done the most difficult one. So why are you crying? What's the challenge? I told him that this is the most difficult of all. To me, this is the most difficult for me. I started talking, how do I cope? How do I cope? How do I live this life you're trying to save now? How do I live that life after mastectomy? How do I cope? You know, I started talking, crying. He said to me, Uju, what do you want? I told him I want the doctor's opinion. I want to go with the doctor's opinion, but it's so difficult for me. It's difficult for me to accept, to comprehend. So he said to me, Uju, I'm glad you trust us to give you the right counsel. Trust me, Uju, you will be fine at the end of the day. People do a breast reconstruction surgery even for fashion. You have all the reasons, genuine reasons to do a breast reconstruction surgery after your mastectomy. All you need to do is wait for a year and you do a breast conservative you do a reconstruction surgery and have your two breasts back. So that shouldn't be an issue. Just wipe away your tears. You are going to be fine, Uju. You will be fine. I immediately wiped away my tears. Words spoken, words spoken. Words are most powerful force available. You can use the force constructively or destructively. Words have the ability to heal, help, hinder, hurt, harm, humiliate, and humble. Perfecting our speech is one of the keystones of mature people. Before you speak that word, take a few moments to contemplate on that which you're going to say, the manner to present it. Let your word heal. Let your word suit the soul. One kind word can work as antidote to that negative emotional trauma or that negative emotions imposed by cancer on the patient, on the champion. I like the way Project Pink Blue refers to cancer patients. Instead of saying cancer patients, they use the word champion. So your word can be an antidote to emotions imposed by cancer on the champion. So let your word suit the soul. Remember, it could have been worse, but God did not allow it. So if God did not allow it, He's going to bring you out of this situation and you will be just fine. So let's laud it. Cancer is not a death sentence. Early detection and treatment is the key to survival. And remember, check yourself. Don't stop checking. The best time to check is a week after your period ends. So develop long positive relationship with your breast. Thanks for viewing. See you in my next video. Bye. God bless you.